Everyone's everyone's device should be on mute so that we can actually hear ourselves. Please, if you have any question, you can write any questions you have, please. You can put it on the chat box. But for now, we want the room to be quiet so that we can um let our speakers actually guide us through. So if you have any question, you can put on the chat box and the admin will actually respond. So very quickly, we're going to begin now. Welcome everyone to the Q&A session. My name is Sharon Ijason, and I'm also a journalist like most of the participants here are. Today's session serves as a question and answer to provide journalists with insight into the criteria and expectations of judges ahead of the upcoming 19th edition of the Wole Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting. The Wole Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting honors outstanding journalists from the print, radio, television, photo, cartoon, and online categories who focus on themes from regulatory failures, corruption in the public corporate spheres, and human rights abuses in the country. The award was first held in October 2005 to aid the development of an investigative reporting culture in the Nigerian media space. In naming the award after Professor Wole Soyinka, the initiators hoped to bring further attention to Soyinka's untiring and relentless support for the cause of freedom and expression. So far, the award has rewarded 119 finalists, 61 winners, 21 commended works, 13 Investigative Journalist of the Year, and 29 honorary awards recipients for their outstanding works. The Center is privileged to have a diverse panel of experts to guide us today. Please join us in welcoming Professor Umar Pate, Vice Chancellor, Federal University of Kashere in Gombe State. It's good to have you here, sir. We also have Professor Abigail Ogwesi Indisika, who is the Director, Institute of Continuing Education at the University of Lagos. We also have Dr. Theophilus Abba, Program Director, Daily Trust Foundation. We also have Juliana Francis, who is the Deputy Editor, The Eagle Online. We also have Mr. Deji Badmos, who is the founder, TV360. We also have a renowned lecturer at the Nigerian Institute of Journalists, who is the Deputy Provost, Mr. Boye Ola. It's good to have you. We also have Mr. Mike Asuko, who is the Senior Editorial Artist at Business Day newspaper. My name is Sharon Ijason, and I will be your host for this session. I would now like to call on Moturayo Alaka, who is the Executive Director, CEO of the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism, WSCIJ, for the opening presentation. She will provide background about the Wole Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting, its timeliness, overall criteria, and assessment process. Madam Moturayo Alaka, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sharon. It's good to be here. And thank you all for joining. To just reemphasize that we thought it necessary to hold this session because we want to ensure that we answer questions that might be in the heart of journalists across the country about our annual award. And we especially want to have more journalists be able to participate in the award program. So we want to ensure that places outside major cities like Lagos and Abuja, journalists there, journalists who are operating at the community level, understand that we accept entries from all over the country, and we are happy to receive their entries as long as there is an English transcript and it is done in English. Even if it is done in local language, there is an English transcript that is attached to it, and it meets the criteria for the award. So as many of you know, and I have just 10 minutes, so I'll try to rush through what we have done in the last almost 19 years of the program in that short time. As many of you might know, we started the award program in 2005. As a matter of fact, the award program is the program that started our organization, which was our opening program as an organization. And we started as an award-making organization in 2005. And it is important to lay the background of what 2005 was to us as a country in Nigeria. In 2005, we had a very nascent democracy. Nigeria had just come out in 1999 out of a protracted combination of 29 years of military rule. And this award was coming about 6 years after that to embolden journalists who, during the military era, were able to keep reporting. But even in a democracy, to help journalists define their role as, watchdogs of democracy and encourage them to do the good work that they are doing. Because it was easier for journalists to be at that point where they were only adversarial to government during the military era. Now we are joint and co-builders of the country, and we are watchdogs of democracy, and the people look to us to ensure that democracy works and that they get the best out of the government of the day. So we were set to encourage journalists at that time who had the courage to report. And we had named the program after Africa's first Nobel laureate in literature, Wole Soyinka, when we started in 2005. And that 2005, my colleague will later scroll, the pictures from the various years when other speakers are speaking. But that time was a very, very special time in the country, because as at the time, there was no other organization. We are the first organization that pioneered the investigative reporting as a culture in the country. And over the years, we have grown. Over the years, we have added categories. Over the years, we have also structured the program. So when we started, the program was held haphazardly, so to speak. We held it different times of the year. But from 2009, we fixed the program to the 9th of December. That is the award presentation, to the 9th of December of every year to mark the World Anti-Corruption Day. And we have held it on that day since 2009 up till now, trying to give the program structure. When we started, the editorial cartoon category was not there. We've introduced that category. The online category was also not there. But we have been dynamic over the years to move with the times to ensure that we also move with the trends in journalism, and we reward, those who are also moving with those trends. So now there is a fixed timeline for our program, which is that every October 4 of every year, we call for application. And this application is called for 3 weeks. And in November, we select entries. Let me clarify that WSCIJ, our organization, does not directly choose winners. We always have a panel of judges who choose the winners. And this panel of judges are the ones who have the final say. As a matter of fact, WSIJ only has an observer's status. And that is why we have been able to to build credibility over the years, because we don't meddle with the award selection process as an organization. We provide what is needed, but it is not on us to decide who wins. The criteria are well spelled out. The judges are picked from all the parts, all sectors. They are teachers of journalism. They are practitioners of investigative reporting. They are civil society activists who know the depth of what is needed for journalism. Some of them now are past winners who did extremely well over the years and are able to now adjudge other entries. But none of these are either board members, sponsors, or staff members of the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism, so that we can have some independence. Back in 2012 or so, we introduced what we call the coding system to the award program. And this coding system is where we try to anonymize the entries to reduce judges' bias, so that judges are able to score entries. What we do is that we do our best to remove identifiers. We do our best to remove identifiers from the entry, so that judges can, so we remove names, the name of the organization, and any other thing that identify an entry, so that judges are able to look at the entries without bias. So these are the things that we've done over the years, and the criteria are always clear. Also, over the years, we've had some special categories. We've had local government category, not categories, but special prizes. Local government prizes have been given in the past. In the past also, I believe 2014, we introduced the Report Women Award as part of our categories, and we gave that award for 2 years. And some of these categories, we may go back to them, we depending on the finance that we have and our capacity to expand. We also had special prizes in climate change in the past, because we recognized far back then that it was important to dig deeper into climate change issues and be able to spotlight them and reward journalists who understood how to investigate, these issues. So like I said, the award making happens every 9th of December. Since 3 or 4 years ago, we introduced a conference to open the award program. That conference is called the In-Depth Media Conference. But for 2 years now, we have collaborated with our partners who are with the MacArthur Foundation, the media and journalism partners, to expand our conference. And we now call it the Amplify In-Depth Media Conference. So this conference now every year precedes the awards program, so that as we honor those journalists who are courageous, who are doing terrific work in journalism, we are also able to have conversations about the sustainability of investigative reporting, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa and in the world, so that we also make it an opportunity for networking for students of journalism, for journalists themselves, for investigative reporters, and we're able to have conversations that are difficult and conversations that are necessary about the growth of journalism. Finally, let me just say that over the last 18 years plus, we would host the 19th Wole Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting, God willing, 9th of December this year. But over that time, we've had 119 finalists. We have had 16 winners of the award. We have had 21 recommended works. These are works that the judges feel have potential, are not able to win, but they have potentials if they do better next time. We have also had 13 investigative journalists of the year. Those are overall winners. And we have had 29 honorary award recipients. Now, honorary award has 2 parts. One is the Lifetime Award for Journalistic Excellence, which we give to a person who has had an outstanding career in journalism, a career that is credible, a career that has a track record that we cannot debate. in journalism from any genre of journalism at all. So we've given cartoonists, we've given photojournalists, and WSIJ particularly emphasizes these two categories because before now, they were not emphasized enough in journalism. And we're very proud to be one of those who have pioneered ensuring that cartoonists and photojournalists in the country get the, so to speak, accolades that they deserve for the work that they do, and acknowledge them also as people who can be investigative reporters, not just addendums to journalism. This is important for us to emphasize as an organization because it is something that we do very intentionally. The second honorary award that we give is the Anti-Corruption Defender or the Human Rights Defender Award, which is us acknowledging that journalists have to collaborate with activists and human rights defenders to do this work. And if we collaborate well, we are able to get better results. And so we honor those who do great activism, who defend the human rights of the people, who take our stories and take it to the point of engagement and the point of getting results. So that is what we have done over the years. During Q&A, we are happy to answer questions. Every year, we list the criteria for our judging, which includes, the quality of investigation, the evidence that you produce, the fact that, it is about the rights of the people, the fact that you were ethical in your reporting, because we also want to be sure that the works that were submitted were done ethically, and then that you are creative. Very importantly, that you care about public interest beyond getting an award. So we do not want journalists to just write stories because they want to get an award. We want the public interest to supersede every other thought that they have. And of course, we care about the presentation. How was the story put together? What's the storytelling strength of the journalist? So that has been the Wole Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting, so to say, over the last 19 years, 18 years plus now. Next year, we'll be marking our 20th anniversary. We can say for sure that this is an award that has stood the test of time. We have also been able to include something very important, finally, that is that journalists look forward to, which is the international study tour. So since 2010, we have taken our award winners out of the country to the UK, to South Africa, to be able to learn and connect with other journalists all over the world with the work that they do. And this has been very, very beneficial to us. So I thank you very much for your time, for listening. And our speakers are judges and past winners of the award. I am sure that they are able to answer your questions. They are able to provide background to the things that you want to learn more about us. And we look forward to receiving, entries when it is time in October. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I have a question. Can I ask?
Hold on, please.
It's not yet the time for question.
It's not time for question yet. We'll get to the question and answer segment, please. Thank you very much. In case you are just joining us, you're welcome to the Q&A session for the upcoming 19th edition of the Wole Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting. The WSCIJ hopes to provide all of us with insight into the criteria and expectations of judges ahead of the upcoming edition of the award. At this point, we'll hear from our discussants who have either served as a judge for the award or the winners. Each of the discussants will take 5 minutes to speak about what they have observed over the years. What they have observed over the years makes a good investigative piece per category. So we all know that we have the radio, online, print, television, photo, editorial, cartoon session. What the center did was to divide a resource person across the categories. So for the radio category, we'll be having Professor Umar Pate, the Vice Chancellor from the Federal University of Kashere in Gombe State. For the online category, we'll have Professor Abigail Ogwesi Indasika, Director, Institute of Continuing Education at the University of Lagos. For the print segment, we would have Dr. Theophilus Abba, who is the Program Director, Daily Trust Foundation, and he will be sharing that category with Madam Juliana Francis, who is the Deputy Editor, The Eagle Online. For the television category, Mr. Deji Badmas, who is the founder of TV360, would be taking us on the criteria for anyone that works in the television station who might be interested in participating in the forthcoming award. Then for the photo session, would have the Deputy Provost of the Nigerian Institute of Journalism, Mr. Boyola, take us around that criteria. Then finally, for the editorial cartoon, we have Mr. Mike Asuko, who is a senior editorial artist from Business Day newspapers. So very quickly, we'll give the floor to Professor Umar Pate, and I would like to say one or two things about Professor Umar Pate so that we all can understand where it's coming from and the value it's bringing to the table. It is worthy of note that Professor Umar Pate has served 8 years on the Wole Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting Judges Board. He was the chairman of the board in 2018. We know him as a renowned journalist and academician, and as someone that has actually reviewed people's theses and confirmed people's professorial status in the mass communication departments and many more. For want of time, Professor Umar Pate, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, distinguished participants, and of course, Madam Otunrayo, the team lead. It is a pleasure being part of this very engaging exercise. The Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism is one of the most active media-centered organizations in this country with a very high level of credibility in terms of engaging journalists who are upcoming and journalists who are also working very hard. It gives them a space for them to be recognized far more than their expectations. And one of the things, it does a lot of things, but one of the things that I've been fairly associated with is that of the award which they give every year for investigative journalism in the country. Like the Master of Ceremony said, I have been fairly associated. In fact, not just for the ceremony, I think I've been associated with Wole Soyinka from day one when it was established. But I became a member of the board much later. And I think throughout the period that I served, we have had very engaging meetings, very serious discussions, and very analytical exercises looking at what people do in terms of contributing their quota towards strengthening investigative journalism in this country. A lot of the times, people made submissions, and credible individuals like Ayo Obe and late Professor Lai Osho and many more very high-level individuals with high level of credibility were part of the process for selecting individuals who we think deserve to be recognized. I have been, like they said, fully involved, and we have added value, I think, to the industry. If you take a critical look at the investigative journalism scene in Nigeria, realize that there are a lot of challenges, but still a number of individuals have been struggling to overcome these challenges and come up with in their articles or write-ups or pieces that made a lot of impact, sometimes real national impact that changed lives, that affected policies, and that people really welcomed. So in the broadcasting sector, for example, I remember some very serious stories from FRCN. They had winners, serial winners, I would rather say, and also from TVC, individuals came up with reports that also won prizes. On a number of occasions also, there were occasions when there were no winners at all in that particular category because of the quality of the submissions. And this is to show that is not everything submitted that eventually must turn out to be a winning submission. So, and each time we concluded on the panel, we give very serious recommendations, which sometimes are observed, and we see the results or the fruit of such recommendations in the effort of individuals who make submissions the following year. Some of the challenges, for example, particularly relating to broadcasting, is a bit difficult in broadcasting to undertake detailed investigative journalism like they do in the print sector, because some cases you may need cameras to move around with, you may need microphones to move around with, and that can make the investigator easily vulnerable, or it can easily expose him. So then you need also the logistics of traveling up and down. If it's TV, sometimes you may need to have a whole team to travel with, and that will also mean cost, which some of our media organizations may not be able to afford. So we take note of some of these challenges in arriving at our decisions, but that does not mean we easily yield to poor quality or low quality submissions. So overall, I think the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism has contributed significantly in upgrading the quality of investigative journalism in the country. It has also spurred very young individuals to emerge as national champions. I know personally I've a number of times forwarded.
I think we lost Professor Umar Pate at some point there.
We can hear him. We can hear him.
Are you
clearly.
able
We
to
can hear-
continue?
It's very
Okay.
audible. Yeah.
Oh,
It's very
okay.
audible.
Okay, so I like I was saying, I remember forwarding some of the calls for entries to many of our young media practitioners, particularly in the North, and some of them have attempted. We have also had winners among some of them, even if not winning as overall, but they have got some kind of mention, and that has encouraged a lot of them to put in extra efforts to participate, and not only just for the sake of winning the Wole Soyinka Center prizes, but generally to improve what they have been doing and to participate on some other platforms where some of them emerge. But if you dig deep, you realize that this Wole Soyinka Center was the real motivator. It was perhaps in their attempt to participate in the Wole Soyinka Center, but they couldn't make it. Then they appeared elsewhere where they really made it. And that all, like I've said, continued to help some of them to improve. And today, like I've said, there are a number of them that have emerged as national figures, courtesy of the effort of the Wole Soyinka Center. So I think the Wole Soyinka has been doing a very good job. And for everything that we could do to encourage it, we'll certainly do. And for those of us who are in the academia, we are always inspired, because once in a while, they also come around to teach our students on some of the issues relating to investigative journalism. So this is a relationship that I significantly value, and I hope other universities will also strengthen their linkages with the center and polytechnics, so that the next generation of investigative journalists in Nigeria will have the double advantage of knowing the classroom issues as well as having a practical knowledge from the industry, which bodies like Wole Soyinka Center offers. I think let me allow my other colleagues to continue from there. Hello. Hello.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof, for your contribution. I think perhaps due to technical issue, Sharon, are you able to join? I see you're still online.
Yes, I'm back. I'm so sorry. I think I would have to join via 2 devices just in case something similar reoccurs. I left when Professor Umar Pate was actually trying to wrap up. So sorry about the breaking transmission. So very quickly we'll move to the next discussant, who is Professor Abigail Ogwesi Indesika, Director, Institute of Continuing Education at the University of Lagos. She will be bringing us up to speed on what the criteria is for those that work in the online medium when they want to apply for the forthcoming award. And I must add here that the online category is the most competitive, so you all should pay rapt attention. Professor Abigail Indesika, you have the floor.
Thank you, and thank you to the earlier speaker, Professor Pate, the Vice Chancellor of Kashiro University, Gombe. I hope I'm audible. I'm using the phone. I'm having difficulty connecting with my laptop. I hope I'm audible.
You're sounding strong. Yes, you're very audible, ma'am.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, WSCIJ, for this opportunity and for this pre-entry engagement. I think this is quite novel, and I commend the center. I also want to join Professor Pate to commend the center for the great work they are doing in Nigerian media landscape. This award, to the best of my knowledge, based on my industry engagement, is highly valued. And it's also motivates a lot of journalists, to push hard, to work extremely hard in doing their stories. For WSCIJ, I think that it's a worthy job that they are doing, because generally people look forward to this award annually. I've also been on their faculty for a very long time, close to a decade, in terms of this award, if not more, and in other engagements. Let me also place on record that on behalf of the judges over the years, we want to appreciate the center. They allow us to do very independent work, and so they practice what they preach. They don't interfere at all in the process. And I think that has kept most of us on that board, because our credibility, it's what we have to offer to our country. And, they respect that very well. They don't interfere in the process at all. So let me quickly talk about the online category. Generally, we look at the quality of investigation, and we try to look at depth of research. We look mainly at the use of both primary and secondary data. So, and the provision of evidence and the documentation. We also try to look at the storytelling format, where you demonstrate a good journalistic skill, your quality of reporting. We look at the delivery, the presentation and the writing. And, while we look at that, we also see to the extent you humanize them, because these things are about human beings. Most of the stories dealt with, they deal with human beings. And, some that we've seen that won awards, some talked about issues around human rights, which, and rights to life, freedom of expression, social justice, accountability, government accountability. Some talk about aggravated poverty. Some talk about poor access to education, quality healthcare, human rights issues, inequalities between female and male persons, issues that have kept our nation largely on what we may refer to as motion without movement. So we talk about the use of infographics, for instance, and audio clips and all that, because now we're in the era of multimedia journalism. So it's not just enough to also deliver stories, it's enough for it to go around, particularly in terms of people with disabilities. So we look through some of those things, and largely we look at, when you talk about primary data, we look at interviews, observation, and if you have been there, observe interviews and all that. We also look at how artfully you have been able to tell the story that you can sustain audience attention. So we do very independent work in terms of assessment because they are blindly reviewed. But generally, looking at the online category, as Sharon said, is very competitive. But we have also made some observations as panel of judges over the years that because the online, they have a lot of space, some of the stories are unnecessarily too long. So we will want them to look at audience attention span and to see how they can bring precision and conciseness, into writing. And but generally, the journalists, they've done a great work. They've done great works over the years. They've remained very creative and resilient. In fact, some of them have even deployed technology in terms of investigation beyond the borders of the country. And so they've told very compelling stories, very compelling stories, things that ordinarily people will gloss over, and that is why it is investigative. So we expect greater expectations this year because we have actually let the cat out of the bag and we're talking about it. So I will stop here for now and maybe take other interventions when questions come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Professor Abigail Ndisika, for sharing with us insights of what participants or potential participants would want to look out for when they want to apply for the forthcoming award. Very quickly, we move on to the print segment, which two resource persons would actually be discussing. First, we'll start with Dr. Theophilus Abba, who is the Program Director, Daily Trust Foundation. You have the floor, sir.
Good morning, everyone. And I want to thank the Wole Soyinka Center for creating this opportunity. Like Professor Patty and Professor Abigail have mentioned, one of this award, the Wole Soyinka Award, is actually one of the prestigious in Nigeria, and many journalists are looking forward to winning the awards. I'm happy that we are holding this forum because I face, questions from journalists. They keep asking me, how can I write an award-winning story? How can my story win an award? And I keep talking to them, oh, you must do this, you must do that. And now we have the opportunity to listen, to know, how awards are won at the Wole Soyinka Center's own award. So I want to go through some of the things I have here based on my experience as one of the judges over the years. And I have 9 points I will speak to quickly. For you to win an award, your story must be unique. What we mean by a unique story is a story that is revealing something that people did not know before. And I'm saying this very carefully because at times we have entries that are imitative in nature. You hear that, 2 years ago, a story about banditry won the Wole Soyinka Award, so you do a story about banditry. That your story could be investigative, very interesting. But it's not all banditry stories that will win awards, even if it's good. You heard that a story about water pollution got an award, so we now do a water pollution story and think, that story will win an award. So the story that will win an award must be very, very unique, must be revealing, must be exposing something, that somebody wants to hide. Let me even say it must be a bit shocking, something that is totally new, something that is not commonplace. Too many journalists, if you ask them to do an investigation, so I want to look at prostitution. And I say, okay, you have to, do something unique about prostitution to win an award because it's commonplace. People have read so much about prostitution. So why must it be the story that you enter for an award? I'm not saying that these stories are not valid. Their stories are valid. There are stories that are quite good, exposing wrongdoing in the society, a story that can lead to changes in the society. But, when something is commonplace, it's not shocking enough, it's not intriguing enough, it's predictive. So it may not be an award-winning story. That is one. Secondly, the story must be in-depth. I have seen journalists write a fiction story, and talk about 2, 3, 4 sources, make it 1,500, 2,000 words, and they say, oh, this is investigative. No. And the investigative story must be in-depth. And what can make a good story in-depth? It has to be based on details from insiders or given to you by insiders. Now, you can't do a good investigation without listening to insiders. Those who are in the system, those who know a whole lot about it. If you look at a typical investigation like what Jim Obaze did at the CBN, even though there are still controversies around that, he couldn't have done that without some insiders providing information. Now, for me, most investigative stories are about minimum 50% intelligence gathering. That is somebody who is inside giving you details of what happens there. They will not do the verification. Now, so if you say a story is in-depth, it must be detailed, it must have multiple sources who discuss multiple perspectives. It must interpret data, showing implications. Descriptions derived from visit to locations. Now, you can't do armchair investigation. You can't sit on your laptop and write 5,000 word investigation and tell us it is investigative. No. You have to go to location. You have to look at what happens at those locations. You have to describe. You have to provide what we call forensic evidence. That is what ought to be as against what is on ground where you went. So the story must have details, must be in-depth. You don't guess. You must point to specific details when you are doing an investigative story. Then number 3, I say there must be evidence. The evidence must be documentary. It must be video evidence. There should be maps. Now we have a Google Earth, which you can use to do a whole lot. There must be photographs. There must be charts. I think Professor Abigail mentioned that. There must be test results. If it requires a measure of forensic evidence, there must be test results. Then human evidence. That is when you talk about how what you are investigating, how the wrongdoing affects human beings. We must humanize the story to show the implications of human beings. Then there should be digital evidence. For instance, are there screenshots of Twitter messages? Are there things shared on Facebook? Are there things shared on YouTube? That speak to your investigation. You must bring them out. Then number 4, and I hope we take note of this number 4 seriously. It must be definite. There should be definite persons. You don't say, oh, the ministry of so and so is corrupt, and so you do a story talk about corruption in the ministry. Then who is involved in that corruption? People want to know. Who are the guys involved? Who did what? Who signed what document? Who subverted the process of things being done the right way? Who are the persons involved? It must be very clear, definite person. Don't say all ministers, all this one, there's corruption here. No, somebody, you must mention somebody. You must tell us who the person is and then interrogate the person. There must be specific institutions.
Hello, Sharon. Did we lose Dr. Abba?
Hello.
Hello. I think we lost Dr. Abba.
Okay, so very quickly, let Madam Juliana Francis to have the floor, please.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Mr. Dr. Abba is actually.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry. I don't know. The line just went up. Now, the method, I'm talking about method also. Well, the method, you must be transparent in how you did your investigation. Tell us, what method did you use? Was it an undercover? Was it documentary analysis? Was it, did you use some person's insiders to get the details? You must tell us the method. Then the method must be ethical, then verifiable. Provide quantitative evidence and qualitative evidence. Now, number 6, it must not be advisory. What do I mean by that? Don't tell us how 419 is done, how people steal, how people commit fraud. No, we are talking about specific fraud that has been committed. If it's okay, how what do you call it? Cybercrime is committed. Then you list how it is committed. Now that is not an investigative story. It's actually an advice. But an investigative story says Mr. A committed cybercrime. He did it this way. He did it that way. He committed this. He used this computer. He used this software. He used this approach and committed cybercrime. But not you telling us how. How smuggling takes place. That is not an investigative story. Then not opinionated. You see, because at times we have stories that are heavily opinionated. You have 10 sentences of something like looks like news, then you speak to 5 experts, 6 experts, then the expert opinion will fill the whole place. But expert opinion is different from evidence that you are provided when you do an investigation. Then not full of past examples. Now, if you are doing a fresh story, don't take us to stories that were done, things that happened the previous 4 or 5 years. You are bringing past examples as if it is part of what you are. Past example is not part of the story you have done. The past is gone. So you don't bring past example to overwhelm what you call your own investigation. We have seen that a lot. When somebody talks about what has happened in the past, bring examples which will be almost 40% of the content of the story, and he expects to win an award. It doesn't happen. Then we talk about extensive effort. Extensive effort. Not armchair reporting. You have to pour over documents, speak to many sources. Interviews must be rich and based on research. Not giving up even when being frustrated. Declare collaboration. If you collaborated with somebody, or with an expert in a particular area, it is allowed. Some of the big investigations that have been published outside this country, they are based on collaboration. You collaborate somebody who works in with an airline, you collaborated with a medical doctor, you collaborate with a scientist, somebody who helped you to understand, how the wrongdoing took place. You see, you must make that clear. No, it's part of the extensive effort that you have to engage in. Then number 4, verification. You must show that you probe information given to you. Somebody tells you that Mr. A did something. You have to go forward. How did Mr. A do it? What's the evidence that Mr. A did it? Now you have to probe it. Then you follow through. Is it true that what he told you is true? You have to hold him to that. Use digital tools to verify sources. Now demonstrate fairness to those who are suspected of wrongdoing. Now, most times, you have journalists who will do a very interesting story, but then the people that are suspected to be involved in wrongdoing are not given the opportunity. We just say, all efforts to reach him, was not fruitful. And then you close the story. Of course, a lot of people will be read, so want to know what happened. From my own experience, if you press forward, if you press on, if you do more, if you use diverse contacts to talk to the person, if you use people who know him to talk to him, if you follow him on Twitter and talk to him, send a message to him, you will likely talk. But if you are going to publish your story in 2 days and you send him a text message, did not reply, send the WhatsApp, did not reply, the guy refused to reply, it's not enough. You have to do much more than that. Then finally, any story that is investigative must be clear. What we call clarity. Evidence.
We lost Doctor again for some few minutes, for a few seconds.
Okay.
Maybe we'll. Okay, you can continue, sir.
Okay, I've almost finished. No shade of doubt about those who played roles. There should be no doubt. If anybody played any role, make it very clear what role the person played. Demonstrate the impact of the wrongdoing on the society. You like humanizing. What impact did it create? What impact the wrongdoing? How did it affect the society? Make it clear you have nothing to hide or act to grind or not being used. Make sure that you are not being used. At times somebody gives you information, gives you what you got tip off. You know that he's just been using you, and then you do a story for him in your newspaper. You know you have been used, then you submit it for an award. Unfortunately, the kind of judges that we have, they will detect it. They say, no, this guy is done this story as if he was working for somebody. It will be very clear. So even if your paper called it investigative, and it comes to Wole Soyinka judges, they will say, they will detect it. They say, no. This one is apparent that there was an axe to grind. It's apparent that, this thing was not doing, it's a shoddy job, even if you were praised for it. So, like I said earlier at the beginning, you see, your story must not win an award. It must be investigative, it can be in-depth. At times I tell my friends, I say, look, even if you don't win an award, even if you are a runner-up, even if you are your honorable mention, the fact that you could get that far in the Wole Soyinka award, you have done a very good job. But if you want to really win an award, it is a lot of hard work, and we should not run away from it. I thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that in-depth analysis. Madam Juliana Francis, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Dr. Theophilus has almost said everything. So, but I'm just going to speak from what I've observed as a reporter that have mentored people on print, and as a trainer. Let me first say that you as a journalist, you first need to work on yourself as a journalist before you start talking about writing an investigative report. What do I mean? You need to have a passion for the job. You need to be mad about journalism. You need to know that investigative report is like a love story, You want to give it your all. You want to give it all your time. And don't think about making money from it. And that is one of the biggest or greatest challenge we have in the media industry. People want to write stories that will make money from, not story that will actually affect the masses. So you as a journalist, first, you need to work on yourself. So let me just talk about one or two things, because Dr. Abba have almost said everything. Now, in the print media, one of the challenges I think we have is our stories are usually too broad, and most of us, we don't seem to have an idea what is investigative reporting is all about and what feature reporting is all about. So you need to understand and narrow down your story. Your story should not be too broad. Stories that are investigative, they are issue-based, they are not scattered. So if they are issue-based, it means you want to expose something that is not right, like Dr. Abba said. So you've narrowed down your story, you want to expose something that is not right, something that contravenes the laws, maybe violations or laws of the land. Now, I've seen somebody has given me an investigative story that is there, like challenges of women mechanics. No, that is not an investigation. Now, if you are telling us that, okay, women mechanics, whenever they want to access loans, they are forced to have sexual intercourse with people that give loan. Now, you've narrowed it down to an issue. You want to talk about criminal justice system. Criminal justice system is very wide. We have the police arrest, the courts, the prisons. So you have to learn to narrow down your story. In your story, you need to show us that you understand the concept of what you are writing about. That is where you have to do research. And doing research is not a sprint race, it's a marathon. You have to calm down, you have to read, you have to go to the net And then you have to talk to some people who are concerned with that subject matter that you are working on. Then Dr. Abba already talked about humanizing your story. Why is humanizing your story very important? It captures your audience. It captures the attention of the judges. Starting from the beginning of the story, we don't want to see, nobody reckons with numbers. You're starting 20 people did this. Start with a story, with a human being, you know, that is what we call humanizing your story. So that people who are reading it, who are judging, you could easily relate. Once they are reading, opening the beginning of your story, they already know what you are going to talk about. They already have an idea, and they are beginning to relate with that story. And you cannot humanize your story without legwork. And legwork is very, very important, because most people don't want to do legwork again because of the mobile phone, because of technology. So, but you have to do legwork, because legwork will give you power of description. The power of description, you will now use it to start your story when you want to humanize it. So let's not forget, it's very, very important. Legwork, because we are print. We are talking about print. We are not television people. Television people, they will easily capture they will easily get the picture and they will show you. And that is why so many people love television. But you as a print person, you need to use your power of description to be able to capture people, to be able to capture readers, to be able to read your story. We need to pay. Another challenge I see with print journalists who want to write investigative reports are attention to details. Their stories lack depth. Okay, I was going through a story that was submitted for an award. I was screening the story. Fantastic story, beautiful story that has to do with abandoned road projects in Rivers State. Beautiful story. The reporter was able to get different contractors that have collected millions, billions, different years. But she just went into the story as a news, you know. Then towards the ending of the story, she started praising the governor, praising how the governor had given a marching order, you know, and that was the story. And I mean, it's just I don't have time. That kind of story, you will just go to that the road, because in the story, the reporter talked about how people used to sleep on that road for days before because of the gridlock. So if I were to do that kind of a story, and I'm talking to all the print journalists out there now listening, go to that spot, stay there for like 2, 3, 4 days, even a week. You must get a human angle story there. It might be somebody that is pregnant, has been somebody that is in labor, where could be caught up there. It can be that an emergency situation. It could be children. Start your story with a human angle and get voices. Yeah, so if you are talking about abandoned road and there's a gridlock that doesn't move for days, there will be so many people to talk to. So why are we not getting those voices? Then you have a good, fantastic information on the different contractors. Just go and investigate the contractors first. Find out if they are registered or not. Then the money that the government has put on that road project, different years, different years, different contractor, pull it together, and you will have the lump sum. Now becomes your fantastic story, and from there you are moving. And that's then, because even the story was not in depth. Now another story I noticed was a story that has to do with organ harvesting. Oh, another beautiful story. It was spellbinding, but journalism, investigative reporting is scientific. You need to show us a pattern that this thing has been happening and this is wrong, and government need to do something about it. Now, remember that Dr. Abba said that you can collaborate, and I totally agree with him. Now, you are doing a story on organ harvesting, and I took time after reading that story. I took time, I Googled, I saw that there are other people that have gone through surgery whose organs have been removed too. Now, you should add it to your story, but add it to your own investigation. But it was not there. It was not there. You just picked only one person, one person's something that happened to just one person, and that was what the journalists ran with. But you could actually get more on the internet. When you do a Google search, then you can collaborate. Okay, this thing happened in Jigawa. Who journalists do I know in Jigawa? Who can get me somebody in Jigawa? Can you go and talk to so? I do it. I've done it several times. Can you go and talk to so person for me? And these are the questions I want you to ask the person. Now, your story, that is investigation. Your story is beginning to have depth. So those are the evidence that you will use to support your position. You know, and when you are doing stories that are investigative, you are looking at what are the things that are being violated, what are the laws that are being contravened, what are the policies, what are the breaches. So those are the things we need to see. Some people just in the print, most of us we are so rushing after deadline that sometimes we overlook these things, and then we present it as an award-winning story, or a story that will win an award. You say, I have finished this story, I have fantastic story, you are praising yourself, but you've not really done the needful. So investigation story is a marathon, it's not a sprint, so you need to calm down. Dr. Abba already talked about evidence. You need to show it. You need to show it. Like for those of us in the print medium, now we are not like online where you use hyperlink. When you are using documented sources, reports, research to back up your claim, yes, you must back up your hypothesis. You are trying to validate it. So it's when after you've gotten other information, all the other reports that you've got, you now need to put it there, right? Because you are print, and hyperlinks do not show in print. You have to really show that this is the title of the report, or this is the title of the research. If possible, this is the person that authored it. Put it there is very, very important. So, and another thing I think I should mention before I leave is I myself, when I'm doing investigation, I use dates. I don't know if other people do it, but I use dates and time to show my movement from one place to the other as I'm gathering information. I've talked about collaboration. So another thing I think print journalists should start doing is look for mentor. This is Dr. Abba that just finished speaking. I used to harass him now. I forced him to become my mentor. Anything I'm working on that is not too clear, I will ask him. Dr. Mr. Otufodiri, I used to harass him too. So you look for a mentor yourself. A story that I did last year, I met Prof. Abigail in Abuja, and I was working on a story. I went to meet her around 11 p.m. to give me more idea about that story. So you need to actually fashion out a way to have a mentor for yourself that will be guiding you. Now, if you want to write an investigative piece, don't wait too long. Don't delay too long to bring out the issue. So what do I mean? For example, you want to write a story. Okay, let me use the story I did about 2 years ago. It's very technical, and that's why I keep using that story as a point of reference. It has to do with the inmates, prison inmates, and they are feeding how government is using taxpayers' money to feed inmates awaiting trial, and yet they are not adhered. If they adhere to the AJA, Administration of Criminal Justice Act, we will not have too many people in the prison that we won't have congestion. So taxpayers' money will not be going to so many people in the prisons that are not supposed to be there, feeding them. So how do I do that? When we were being prepped for that story, the facilitators were like, how are you going to bring in the issue and don't delay it for too long? Very simple. I just humanized it. I'm supposed to go to prison, and I couldn't get to prison because the prison people, I just had to get somebody who got somebody in the prison, and at a particular time, say towards evening time, I did phone interview with the inmates, you know. So I used that particular person, that particular inmate story. He was there, he has been on a waiting trial for long in the prison, and just because his roommate stole generator from somebody, it was not his crime. You cannot even arrest people on proxy. Now that is a problem. Is even a breach. But he has been there because his roommate stole. So I started him with the story to show how the prison is being congested. Then immediately after his story, I went to the issue, talking about how that thing contravened the issue. I just use the next paragraph to talk about what I'm trying to pursue here. So don't wait too long to talk about what you are trying to pursue. In conclusion, don't go into investigative reporting because you want to win an award. No. Go into it because you love it. I love it myself. Just go because it gives you joy. It gives you great satisfaction. You know, that is what I want to say. Thank you. Hello.
Madam Jelania Francis. I hope that we'll keep to, thank you very much, Madam Jelania Francis. I hope that we keep to time so that we'll be able to have the question and answer segment. Very quickly, I would also like to reintroduce our resource persons. For Dr. Theophilus Abba, I did not read his profile, is the Program Director, Daily Trust Foundation, was runner-up in the print category of the 2012 edition of the award. He has served 9 years on the judges board. For Madam Juliana Francis, she is the deputy editor of the Eagle Online, is a 2-time winner in the print category of the award. She was 2014 WSCIJ Nigerian Investigative Journalist of the Year. She served in the 2023 screening committee. Very quickly, would like to introduce Mr. Deji Badmos, the founder of TV 360. He's a 3-time winner of the TV category of the award. He is also a judge on the award judges board. Mr. Deji Badmos, you have the floor. Okay, while we wait for...
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Please, before Mr. Deji Badmos takes the floor, please ensure that you fill in the form. It's on the chat box, please, so that we can contact. There's an attendance form. Please ensure that we all fill it. Mr. Deji Badmos, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. Honestly, after listening to Dr. Ava and Juliana, I really don't think there's anything to add. At least we all have a clear idea now of what an investigative story should be, what it is, and what it shouldn't be. So there's just nothing to add to that. Investigation is the same, whether you're doing it for print or you're doing it for the electronic media. So it's still investigation. The only difference is the approach and treatment. That is what is different. So whereas one would appear to be very more powerful now and more dramatic and can elicit quicker response, the other one is not. And TV has the biggest of all the advantages in the sense that it could be more dramatic. It could elicit a quicker response, you know. It's a very powerful tool. Unfortunately, that's one area that our journalists have not been doing well with the Wole Soyinka Awards for investigative journalism. Because, for instance, you know that I think the last award or the one before that, I would say if you look at the award history itself, the number of people who have won in the work to do, especially when it comes to TV journalism. Can you hear me? I hope I'm not breaking up.
Yeah, we lost you for a second, but you're back.
Okay.
For myself. And at the end of the day,
Please, can you unmute yourself, Mr. Deji Badmus?
So can you hear me now? I've changed my network.
Okay, perfect.
Can
Please, you
everyone
can go
hear me
ahead,
now?
sir. Yes, we
Okay.
can. You can go
Okay.
ahead, sir.
Fantastic. So as I said, TV is a very powerful tool to be used for investigation, and it's one area that we really need to improve on. Just as the other resource persons have said, having served on the panel for maybe 2 or 3 occasions, what I would say I have noticed in all is that most times the bulk of the TV reports that actually come in are usually not investigative reports. They are more extensive feature reports. Some, of course, are investigative. Investigative. But what actually kills quite a number of them is the approach and treatment. So the approach and treatment is really important. So if you're doing an investigation for television, how you approach the story, the treatment you give to the story is very important. You could have an investigative story on your hands. You could be working on an investigative story, and the way you treat the story will just change it into a long feature, because you probably would not be able to do the areas you should investigate, the areas you should concentrate on, to ask questions on, to try to unravel, to help your audience to know. I mean, you could not. You could run into the trap of not treating that, and then just looking at things that are not really relevant. And I think that's the problem we've had with quite a number of the reports that I have seen. The treatments have not been really good. Some of them are very good. The topic alone, the subject are really very good investigative subjects, but when it comes to the treatment, usually not too good, not really grounded, not deep. So that's where the problem is. And so if you're an investigative, I mean a TV investigative journalist, you must understand that how you treat your story is really important. It's not just enough for you to throw out figures and all of that, but you have to go behind those figures to unravel the truth behind them. And I'll give you a good example, and this is by way of expo anyway. You all know about the current debate over the constituency project budget for 2024. I mean, we saw, you also what happened to Senator Ningi. And if you really sit down to dissect what actually happened, I mean, you could narrow the whole thing to the fact that even though Senator Ningi did not come out to say it, what he is just not happy about is the way the constituency projects funds now were allocated. Obviously, some senators got more than others. And if you paid attention to the debate on the floor in the Senate, was it last week or so? You noticed the senator from Cross River, Jarigbe Agom, said something about some senators getting 500 million naira worth of project and him not getting enough. So that's actually the bone of contention. So it's something that we can actually investigate. For instance, the budget for constituency project 2024 is out there in the public. If you go to the website of the budget office, you would see it there. And you heard the way some senators came out to say, oh, that they didn't get, no senator got up to 500 million and all of that. But go and do your investigation, pick up that document. And I think that will be a fantastic investigative story. So pick up the document, do your analysis. It's a lot of work, but do your analysis. You would see that some senators got as much as 5 billion, you know. So it's something that will shock you. I'm just giving those of you who might be interested, that would be an interesting investigative piece. And then one of the senators actually said, look, okay, you know what? Why not wait until when the funds are released, and then at the end of the budget cycle, go and find out if the projects are not executed, then come back, you know. So that's a challenge to us as journalists. So, you know, so you publish these figures. If you're able to publish the figures, let us know how much each senator got, for instance. It's going to be a lot of work, but it also helps your audience as well, because remember, you're not doing investigative stories just because you want to win awards. Don't forget, the whole essence of investigative stories is just to change society, to make society a better place. So you want to help your audience. You want to help people who are constituents of these senators. Some of them don't even know what has been allocated to their constituencies and all of that. So if you're able to expose this, then you'll be able to galvanize them to follow the money and follow how this, the money is eventually spent. So if for their areas, for instance, they are supposed to get, say, 10 boreholes or 20 boreholes, then they'll be able to follow up with their senators. Because what we've noticed is that most times these funds are the first to be released, you know? So the funds get released 100%, but in terms of utilization, it's a problem. So this is just an expo. So imagine if you were to do an investigation on that, you go on to expose, and then you're able to track how the money is spent. It will be a fantastic investigative story, not just a story that will win award, but a story that will change society and even change the way this whole thing about constituency project is handled. So treatment is very key. As I said, treatment is very key. And it's the same thing for even the print. Most of the print stories too that I've seen, quite a number of them, fantastic stories, but they're usually just long features. They're long features that are not well done. And most times reporters run into the risk of opinionating, you know, just as Juliana said, and I think Dr. Abba alluded to that as well. They begin to opinionate, and some actually you go into an investigation with a preconceived notion, and that is one thing you have to work against. Don't go into an investigation to say, look, having a preconceived notion. So it's like you have an end. So your report is just working towards that end. So you want to justify what your preconceived notion is. So now the temptation of working that way is that when you get anything along the line of your investigation, you run into any information at all that tends to contradict your preconceived notion. You run the risk of pushing that information aside just because you have a predetermined destination. So it's also a problem. There are times when you want to investigate a story, you think, look, this is a story that's worth investigating, and you want to unravel something. And at the end of the day, it might just turn out that, what you thought along the line, you just find out that what you initially thought it was is not what it is. So what do you do? So you have to really guard against that. Don't go in with that preconceived notion that, oh, lawmakers are corrupt. So I would just want to do a story to expose their corruption. But so you go in and then you get something different. You run the risk of wanting to push those information aside that are contrary to what your preconceived notion is. And at the end of the day, you do stories like that, you end up not helping society at all, and you don't help journalism as a whole. I think I wouldn't say more than that for now until I get questions from you.
Thank you very much, sir. Very quickly, we'll move to the photo category, which will be taken by Mr. Boyola, the Deputy Provost of the Nigerian Institute of Journalism. Afterwards, we would have the final segment, which will be taken by Mr. Mike Asuko on the editorial cartoon segment. Mr. Boyola, you have the floor.
Thank you. And once again, I thank the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism for what they have done over the years. I've been involved right from the beginning, and it's been an exciting time. And what we've discovered, although before I go on, I have to work on the existing protocol, metaphorically, in the sense that almost quite a number of things that I have in mind, my profs and my other colleagues have also said them. But what I'm going to talk about now will have to do with looking at investigative journalism from the visual perspective. But before then, the photojournalists and journalists in general will probably need to be refreshed on what is investigative journalism. And the investigative reporters and editors put it this way: the reporting through one's own initiative and work product of matters of importance to readers, viewers, or listeners. In many cases, the subjects of the reporting wish the matters under scrutiny to remain undisclosed. So what it means is that an investigative story is out to expose what ordinarily is being hidden. But in doing the story, be you reporter with words or reporter with camera, we need to understand one thing. What are you working on? While those who are writing are more or less running after paper trail, documents, and the rest, photojournalists do not have that luxury. But the paper information will lead to story ideas. They are more or less looking at people involved with the trail. And the challenge will be, how will they present their investigations visually? It's been very difficult. It's been very difficult both for print, investigative reporters, those who submit awards generally, because oftentimes people actually know the difference between ordinary journalistic storytelling and investigative story. And most times we've also seen, as a member of the jury, our photojournalists falling into what we can call visual cliches. The photograph had won an award and they want to start replicating that kind of a thing. It won't work. Why it won't work is that it is assumed that yearly there are stories that make the rounds. And oftentimes those stories stand the chance of being imprinted in the consciousness of most people, and such stories stand the chance of winning awards. But that is not the only where photojournalists can look for stories. Let me look at the kind of stories that Wole Soyinka award is looking for. Stories that have to do with clandestine activities, stories on corruption, crime stories, and stories that have to do with human rights elements. So what is expected of a photojournalist is to sit back and ask, how can I do a story along this line? Am I looking at single images, or am I looking at a documentary story? Interestingly, from your documentary story, you can bring out single images that will eventually win an award. But like my other colleagues have said, you don't do a story with the mindset of winning an award. And that is why I always ask photojournalists when we meet, what is your role? in journalism? Why are you in journalism? And if what you do is solely to go after event coverage, it might be difficult for you to explore investigative stories. So in doing investigative stories, we have to ask, where can the story ideas come from? The number one is to focus on issues, the issues within the society. Issues that, it could be issues of corruption, it could be issues of human rights abuses, not necessarily police or military men brutality that has been overdone, become visual cliche, but there could be different angle to it depending on the visual you are bringing up. Like now, what is happening in Delta is a good story that an independent photojournalist can go and work on and come up with visuals. It's not easy. The simplest thing is for somebody to sit back somewhere and say, "Oh, you can do it." But it can be done. Although I always tell people that are stories that are not doable. I do joke with people that one of the investigative stories that I want to do is to go to heaven and take pictures of God judging people. But we know that it's not a doable story. It's impossible. So apart from issues, you can also look at this example that Deji just mentioned about constituency allowance. A documentary can be done on that now of these senators who have received money for constituency allowance, constituency projects, and go to different centers and find out whether they have even used the money for that. What are those constituency projects? That could come up in form of a documentary. But we also know the challenges that photojournalists have in the media. Most times, the media is not interested in good photography. An intervention project by Wole Soyinka Center on reporting issues witnessed projects that we consider good. But when some of our media organizations publish the story, they turn them into feature story. Instead of the pictures, the story being driven by images, text ended up being the main storytelling device. Or what would you say when a story is using only one picture and you say it's a visual story? Definitely it's not. So why will I agree that our photojournalists are not working in an environment that promotes good photography? The onus is on them. If they can answer my earlier question, why are they in journalism? To serve the people or to serve those in power? If the journalism revolves around serving those who are voiceless, those who are on the receiving end of those people we have in power, then you can start seeing stories that can end up being visually interesting as visual story. Now, what are the criteria? What kind of, when you even do the story, what are those things that you expected the story to have? Number one is the quality of the investigation. Is it newsworthy? If it is not newsworthy, then it may end up not being able to push forward as a good visual story. What is the issue there? Is it about human rights abuses? Is it a clandestine activity that some people have been perpetrating, being supported by government officials or whatever? Is it about corruption? Is it about crime? Because your story, your picture must have been captured from a realistic situation. Then what about the element of creativity, which can also be referred to as visual interest? Because it's not just a picture taken anyhow. It must show your skill as a photographer. Does that picture has the power to evoke emotion, that when people see the ideas will start running in their mind, they start getting worked up, being annoyed by those they call their leader. And then the technical quality of the image. In this era of automation, that shouldn't be a problem. But it doesn't mean that the picture must be pin sharp to win an award. You add pictures that are blurred, winning WordPress Photo Award. So, but the situation will determine how the judges will appreciate it. Most of the issues concerning photography in Wole Soyinka Award has been more of our photojournalists going for opportunistic shots. Oh, they were going somewhere and they saw something on the way and they captured it. There's no investigation there. And that is why 95% of the photographs submitted are oftentimes given, they don't fall into the kind of thing that Wole Soyinka wants. They might be good pictures for other awards, but definitely not for Wole Soyinka. And we've had a couple of times when we ended up not giving awards in photo category because we never saw anyone that Wole Soyinka Center would be proud of. Photojournalists should also take note that they need mentors like other reporters to guide them through. And there are mentors everywhere. In showing your pictures to them, in showing your ideas, even before you start taking pictures, they can give you an idea of how to navigate. And your own pictures, based on the criteria that I've mentioned, are not being judged like other entries. But they must be pictures that when we see them visually, we only need caption to support them. Not that we have to look at the caption to have a full understanding of what we have done. I'm going to stop here for now, while I hope those who are in the house, who are interested in the photography aspect, will ask questions, and then the discussion will move on from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, sir. We are almost running out of time, but it's worthy of note that Mr. Boyola is Deputy Provost, Nigerian Institute of Journalism, and he has served on the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Judges Awards Board for 16 years. Very quickly, we move to Mr. Mike Asuko, who will be drilling us on what to look out for what the judges will be looking out for from the editorial cartoon segments. Please, sir, help us with time so that we can take 1 or 2 questions, sir. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Mike Asuko. I'm an artist. I'm a cartoonist, and I've won this prize 3 times back to back. And I think I won the very first edition the year that the cartoon category was introduced. So for me, it was I was quite happy because one, I didn't know I was not working on any particular template. I was just doing my cartoons, you know. But having won it for 3 consecutive times, and then having worked with other cartoonists, and last year also being on the judges panel, it really opened my eyes to a lot of things about editorial cartoons and how you can make it investigative. Because after I won at the third time, it took a while before anybody came close. And I was always wondering what are the criteria. A lot of my friends used to ask me what are the criteria. Why is Wole Soyinka award so tough for cartoonists? How come we're not winning? No, and so there are a couple of things that we really have to look out for. And over the time, I always try to bring up these in different situations. I'm trying to explain to other cartoonists that no, it's not as if there is a system, there is a template. You just have to do a good cartoon, and so, what are those elements of a good cartoon, which is what I also want to talk about. What are the elements of a good cartoon? Because when you said a cartoon winning investigative category, how do you make a cartoon investigative? I think the same challenges that a cartoonist will have is the same that a photojournalist will have to some extent. Being that the cartoonist work, his space of work is also very limited, but then you can do a big cartoon on a small space. So what are those elements that makes a good cartoon? That the judges will be looking out for. Because before I won the first time, I did not go through any kind of criteria. I just knew that I was doing a good cartoon. So most of the time when cartoonists want to present their work for the award, I think the problem is always, which one do I choose? How do I choose my work? Which one do I pick? Out of all the works I've done within the year, and then you want to pick, and that is always where the problem, usually is. How do you pick the work that you've done? How do you say, this is a good, this one will meet all the criteria? So I think the first thing that I have to look out for is the drawing skill of the cartoonist. So the drawing skill is important. So a clear drawing, ensure that the visual message is easily understood. So a drawing, you don't have to be Picasso, you don't have to be Michelangelo, but when you draw, the drawing should be able to convey the visual message clearly, without ambiguity. So the cartoonist artistic skill plays a very crucial role in conveying complex ideas with simplicity. Remember that the space you're working with is small, so you don't have to pack in too much into that space. So you have to simplify your thoughts. So it's important that you simplify your thoughts, and because a skillfully drawn image, the one bearing a well thought out message is a winning combination anytime. So there should be proper integration of words and images. So it's like you are an artist, you are also a journalist. From the artist point, you are providing the images, and as a journalist, you're providing the words. So a good cartoon, cannot be fully grasped by looking at either the words or the pictures alone. Both elements must work together to convey the intended meaning. It's important that this is what you want to say. So you must say it. You must make sure that the picture, that the imagery that you have used is able to say what you want to say, and you say it clearly. So there should be that clear synergy between text, and imagery, to create the other powerful impact that you need in your cartoon. No. So, but when it comes to the writing part, good writing is very important because it complements the visual element. So you have a caption you want to write, it must be concise, and the text must be impactful, so that they can add depth, and context to the cartoon. Because you can't use text, you can't use caption that will be confusing or will make your cartoon misunderstood. So good captioning and labeling make a lot of difference. So make sure remember that the caption must be there to complement the picture. So you know that whatever the picture has not said, the imagery has not said, the caption is there to say it. So you don't use a caption to repeat what is already there, what is already expressed, in pictures. So you use the caption to fill up, the space that is left by the images. And then captions also be intriguing. It's not just, a word that is just you just take from the air. It must be something that will make the reader, will provoke thoughts, in the reader's mind. So that is one element that is very, very important for the cartoonist. Another element that is also very important is that a cartoon must have a recognizable point of view. So what is your cartoon talking about? Must be clearly seen in your cartoon. So because an effective literary cartoon expresses a recognizable point of view or opinion. So that must be expressed. Your unique perspective on issue must be seen in that cartoon. Because if you are asking yourself, how can a cartoon be an investigative piece? Remember that, for a cartoon itself, the primary function of the literary cartoon is to provide critical commentary on political and social issues. So you can use a cartoon, a medium, to address corruption, inequality, injustice, and also, it's also as a form of the public accountability to hold individuals and institutions to scrutiny. So once the cartoon is able to do that, is already investigative in nature, because we're talking about issues.
Sir, please, sorry to interrupt. Please, can you wrap up in 3 minutes so that we can have 1 or 2 questions answered? Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, I'll do that. Yeah. So
thank you, sir.
So those are some of the basic elements that you need in your cartoon. Then another very important element is that of humor. Humor is a potent tool. In the cartoon, it can evoke laughter, it can highlight absurdities, and it can engage readers emotionally. But at the same time, too, remember that some cartoons are not to be funny, because some of the child cartoons use humor to engage with that, but none of them are meant to be funny. Some are serious, thought-provoking cartoons, and they can be equally effective. So the goal is to stimulate reflection and conversations around the subject matter. So they don't have to be something that you look at and then you start falling all over and laughter. So some could just be some cartoons will make you think, will make you angry even, and that is what we are talking about. That brings another element, which is impact. So what kind of impact is your cartoon creating in the mind of the readers? What kind of impact what kind of feedback is your cartoon getting? Getting from readers. So that so the combination of the images, the combination of the captions, and everything will help to state that clearly, or will help to illustrate that kind of reaction from the public, from your readers. So the cartoon will now go out there and make people react, or make people take action, about the issues that the cartoon addresses. So it's important, and in doing that also, there is also use of symbols and icons. So you can use that to communicate very complex ideas, because those are like visual shortcuts. And they are there to serve, to represent broader concepts. For example, there are certain things that are associated with certain things. So certain actions like corruption, peace, insecurity, and all that. So there are some symbols that the cartoonists use to represent those. So those things serve as a visual shortcut when they are doing a cartoon. So the cartoon can say a lot in quite a small place. So there is a lot that the cartoonist has to do to make a piece come out strong, investigative in nature, and humorous, and able to get the judges on his side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We do appreciate your insights. Please pardon me, Dr. Boye Ola, not Mr. Pardon me, sir. Very quickly, would want to seek permission to extend the meeting by 10 minutes. The meeting should end by 1 p.m., pardon me, but we've been learning so far and it's difficult interrupting our speakers. So please, for want of knowledge, if you don't all mind, we can extend the meeting by 10 minutes. And we'll be taking questions in 4, meaning we'll take the first 4 questions and get our leaders to respond. And the question will take about a minute for each participant. So we have I want to say the phone lines are open, but somebody is raising his hand, Mohammed. So you can signify by raising your hand, then you have the floor. Mohammed, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Sharon, for the opportunity, and thank you, Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism. My question goes to Professor Umaru Pate, especially that I work for radio. Last year, I was at the award ceremony and the conference, and I learned that there was no entry or there was no winner. I cannot specify which one in the radio category. So I want Prof to tell us what did he think is the reason, and in what way should we improve, especially those in radio? Do we have unique challenges that maybe led to the what happened last year? Thank you.
Much. So Noah Aderoju, you have the floor. After the 3rd and 4th question, would get response from the presenters. Noah, you have the floor. If Noah is not available, Abiodun, please, you can ask your question. Then Sadiq Katanda, you can ask accordingly.
Yeah. Can I go?
Yes.
All right. So last week, thank you so
we can't hear you. Please, maybe you send the message. You send your question via the chat box. So Sadiq Katanda, you have the floor.
Hello, good afternoon. So my name is Sadiq Katanda. I'm a reporter with the Foundation for Investigative Journalism. So the other time when Mrs. Abigail Ogwizi was talking, she said for online submissions or entries are usually unnecessarily long, and in that manner, it's unable to, those submissions are unable to sustain the reader's attention span. And again, the other speaker, Professor Abba, during his own sessions, he emphasized the importance of in-depth, that an investigative piece should explore all available options in order to drive home a point. So in that sense, I'm like, how do we piece these two perspectives together in order to make a submission. So the submission to meet the category or the criteria that may be necessary in order to get the necessary spot in judging them. So that's my question.
Okay, the question that I can find on the chat box states that for the online category, can one video report suffice? So we'll take one more question and we have presenters respond accordingly. So Abiodun Omo Tosho, you have the floor.
Good day. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma. I am Abiodun Omotosho. I'm the managing editor of the Foresight Online. I'm also the winner 2021 photo category. I really want to make a plea so that photojournalists, visual reporter can be encouraged, because there are some stories out there that are doable, really, but the environment is not conducive. So in the long run, it's unachievable. But we have a lot of story around us. We have a lot of around us. So the means to achieve it is the hello. The means to achieve it, like the tools, there should be encouragement on the part of the visual reporters so that they can achieve it. You know, other means can be for category. But visual reporters must be available at the spot.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Omotosho.
Thank you.
I think we've gotten your question. So very quickly, we'll allow our presenters respond. The first question was for Professor Pate. Please, you have the floor to respond. Then Professor Undesika will take the remaining questions because it relates to online journalism. So Professor Pate, it's good to see your face. Some people have been asking that presenters should show their face. It's good to see you, Prof. It's good to see you, both of you. So very quickly respond to the question, sir.
Thank you very much. And I'll try to be very brief. Some of the challenges we have noted over time is a lot of the time, the investigative stories are not basically initiated or conceived as investigative reports. Many of the times, they are reports received from bodies like EFCC or elsewhere. Then people come and develop them further or report them in their own ways and submit as investigative reports. But in the actual sense, they are not initiated by the reporter or by the media organization and followed through. So in such a situation, it becomes difficult for you as a judge to say that it is a real investigative journalism a report from the media. Then secondly, the quality, like I've said, radio, TV may not be like the print, where mostly you may end up with quotations in writing. In this case, sometimes there may be need to have actual voices and realities from the scene. Then sometimes it's also difficult getting such reports. And for TV, for example, having the pictures to go with the reports. Then the quality of the writings too, and the flow, and the logic, and the chronology of the presentations all count. At the end of the day, you ask, what is the quality of the writing? What is the impact of the story on society too? And does it have some kind of impact on policy making, impact on individual human activity? What is it really? Or is it simply a story set out to save somebody's life or people's life? You ask these critical questions. At the end of the day, if the answers are not so positive, then you may be compelled or be constrained not to give the top marks. So anybody in radio wishing to do this, he must be conscious of issues like time, issues of quality of the content, issues of the impact of the story, then of course the flow and how it can attract, retain, and how it can attract, sustain the interest of the reader or the listener, and at the same time also excite the individual or elicit some kind of sympathy or whatever it is that the initiator of the story is hoping to achieve. So it's not just a matter of putting a story on tape or following somebody's report, then developing it further, but the hope is it should be initiated from within and then followed through using all the criteria for a good radio piece. That is, I think, what usually attracts the attention of the authors. We don't have the time here to go into the details. That's why even from the introduction, I avoided going into details because I was given 5 minutes, and I don't think I should go into A, B, C, D of F or start revealing specific marks or specific stories of what we did in the past. But these are the general frameworks, and there are a number of guides that should be able to inform anybody interested in doing this kind of thing. And like our colleagues mentioned, there should be some level of mentorship in all of this. A young reporter who is very full of energy, very active, willing to achieve some objective should also have a mentor by the side who should be helping him or her. So I think these are a few remarks I can make on this.
Thank you very much, Prof. Professor Ndisika, you have the floor.
Thank you. I think the question is how do you balance not having a long story and unnecessarily long story and being in depth? I write on what Professor Pate said in terms of having mentors. I started off in the classroom when I started off in the classroom because I was a TV reporter at some point. When I started off in the classroom, when I write papers for publication, Professor Pate hits the nail on the head, getting mentors. I sent out an article for publication and they sent it back to me that it was too long. What I'm trying to tell you is that you can tell your story without unnecessarily having them too long. I tried everything I needed to do as a young academic. I couldn't compress the article. So I rushed to a superior person, Professor Didiuyo. Professor Didiuyo just told me that I should go and remove all the descriptive words, I should remove all the adjectives and other descriptive. And immediately I did that, the thing got the right number. So having mentors, they will help you. But let me just say, technically, you can mine data, paraphrase them very strongly for conciseness and precision without losing accuracy, logic, and completeness. You know, you can write, you see, when WSCIJ asks you to send in your entries, they will also tell you to sell the synopsis. All the long story you have done, you put the synopsis, and by the time somebody reads the synopsis, you will know, first of all, if this is what looking through. And there you have talked about what you did, the methodology, how you did it, you know, all the things that you did. So you can do that very well without giving us stories that we can spend 2 days reading. And even when you have long stories and you don't tell them in a compelling format, in a way that, you know, I see myself inside, I see human beings inside, I can sustain my attention, then I'm sure that I will not be interested in that story. So what we're saying is strike a balance, strike a balance. And you did say the number of video clips or visuals that you should use. We don't try to be prescriptive in doing this. Remember that we talked about multiplicity of sources, that the strength of an investigative report has to deal with, you know, how you're able to piece data together from different angles. So if you have gone on observation, you will have visual evidence of your observation. You do interview, you may even have the video of the interview or the audio clip and all that. And if you're into print, you have your photograph. So you see, you must be able to put them together. But remember that the work is not a photo essay or a documentary, so to say. So you have to have that at the back of your mind, that it is not a photo essay. If it's a photo essay, we tell you to tell all the stories in photo and all that. But you must strike a balance and be able to, in terms of choice, pick the ones that actually tell the story without unnecessarily having them too overloaded. I think that would be my response. Thank you.
So, Dr. Goyola, do you mind responding to Mr. Motosho's question as regards the needed support for visual journalists?
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. I think Motosho was being generalistic, not just in particular about photojournalism, but the media space is collapsing. When we talk about online, you can have everything there. You can have a photo essay online. You can have a multimedia story that will have everything. But if it's talking of having a multimedia story that will consist of video, audio, clips, photographs, and text, then it won't submit such a story or photograph entry. But if it is for photos, it must follow the due process. The pictures should be able to speak for itself. And they must avoid visual cliches. Talking about people to help, talking about mentors. In the newsrooms, there will still be mentors there. An average reporter should have seniors that you know, discuss your story ideas with and they guide you. I always tell people there's always a word of difference between theory and practical. Everybody can write a story. It's when you start writing, you know that not everybody can write a story. So discussing with your superiors, having a mentor, will help you even right from your story idea generation. And please, we should take note of one thing. Putting your story together is not all about how much do you have, the fund. If you put the fund first, you may not be able to go ahead with your story. Let the passion, your reason for being a journalist, be the driving force. And then you, along the line, you start seeing everything falling in place. I wish him all the best in the journey.
Thank you very much. The CEO, Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism, I think this question is for you, and that will be the final question. I would want to suggest that any further questions should be mailed and there will be adequate response. And the question is by Noah Aderoju, which says, my question is actually about work that are not in English language. There have been broadcasts, I guess, and even print work produced in languages other than English, like Yoruba, Hausa. Are these kind of works valid for submission?
Okay, good afternoon again, everyone. So for works that are not in English, what we ask in the criteria is that you provide full transcripts in English, a full transcript of the story in English, and then the judges will be able to consider the entries. We have had a few submissions, but usually the people just send in the local languages without giving us a full transcript. So we require a full transcript for works that are not done in English to be eligible. Thank you.
You very much, Ma, for your response. And we call it a wrap at this moment. We would like to appreciate all the discussants and participants. Without you, this session would not have been a success. Remember that this session is timely, as the 19th edition encourages everyone from every nook and corner of the country to enter for the award, to participate, so that at the end of the day, we should be able to make more impact to our society and also to the journalism profession. Thank you, everyone. I think the conversation can continue offline, pardon me. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.